And we are live with another episode of MicroStrategy Monday. Really looking forward to today's episode. It's a Wednesday. I know everyone who purchased a ticket for Monday can get their money back. Wait, it's free. I forgot. But today, to me, a special episode. I know, we have on Bitcoin X, we have dog fights, we have cat fights, we have high school drama. And today I'm bringing to you the hottest, and that is the two daily MicroStrategy show content creators, so we can have a battle out. No, I'm kidding. We're not battling out anything here. We all on the same mission, trying to understand and share the knowledge of what's going on with MicroStrategy. Probably, well, not only probably, but to me, the by far most interesting investment that people can do today in terms of stocks, has outperformed the last 4 years. And I expect that MicroStrategy outperforms everything else the next 15 years of stocks easily, and also Bitcoin itself. But there's pros and cons with both Bitcoin, cold storage, and MicroStrategy. Obviously, I have here Matt from MicroStrategy Daily that I told him before the show. Maybe he should rebrand to MicroStrategy occasionally.
Ooh.
I remember coming across his channel Q4 last year, and just being hungry for MicroStrategy content. And I saw the show called MicroStrategy Daily. Like next day, where's the show? When is it coming? But Matt does a phenomenal job and puts out a couple of MicroStrategy Daily throughout the week, which is awesome. Then I also came across MicroStrategy Today, created by JLD here on the left, and he pumps out a show almost every single day.
Not almost, Anders.
I will
Not
say
almost.
every single day, and it's much appreciated. And I hope we can push Matt to do the same. I think time constraint there is gonna prohibit that, but we love it all. To me personally, there's apart from, of course, MicroStrategy Monday that I produce, there's 3 shows that I never miss. So there's 4 to me that I do like to catch every single episode. It is MicroStrategy Daily, created by Matt on YouTube. It's MicroStrategy Today, created by JLD, which comes out every single day. And then it's MicroStrategy True North. And then, of course, MicroStrategy Monday, which is the show you're watching now on a Wednesday. And that's how it is. Matt, good to have you on, sir. I recognize your voice, obviously, from the YouTubes. And finally, it's good to finally actually see you in person as well. How are you?
Yes, thanks, Anders, for having me. Excited to chat. Yeah, and we were talking in the green room before. The one person I would like to add to that list that if people didn't watch his videos, you should. His name's Beat the Denominator on YouTube. He puts out a ton of really awesome MicroStrategy content as well. So Beat the Denominator, that's a shout out to him.
Yeah, we spoke about that, and I am gonna look for that and subscribe to that. If it's primarily MicroStrategy content, I'm all for it, because there's to me nothing more exciting going on in the financial world, in corporate finance, than MicroStrategy. And JLD, also good to see you. I know your face obviously from every day watching MicroStrategy Today. Know your voice as well. Appreciate all the daily content. Good to have you, mate. Welcome to the show.
Well, happy February 5th. I mean, I'm excited to be here, and it's going to be a lot of fun. We have Chuck in the house, Davin, Valina, James, Michael, Dan H. Guys, let us know where you're coming from in the world. We'd like to see where people are coming from, and obviously ask some questions, and we'll do our best to give at least our viewpoint. And yeah, that's one thing that I will say is a similar story that you had, Anders, I had, which was back in the summertime. I just went head over heels for Michael Saylor in MicroStrategy and was consuming all the content that I could. I came across Matt from MSTR Daily, and every episode that he produces, he just crushes it. It just got me even more excited. And to be honest, he was the inspiration for my show, because he was complete proof of concept. I mean, here's a guy that's posting great content, and he's getting 10, 20, sometimes 30,000 views per video. And I'm like, oh man, like I know that I love this stock. I know that I love Michael Saylor and MicroStrategy, but how many other people really do? And there's a lot of us out there. It's a very passionate base. I mean, it's only going to get bigger as things progress in 2025 and beyond. And I was just excited that Matt kind of led the way. And, you know, I tried to add a little different angle to some MSTR and MicroStrategy news on a daily basis. You know, I kind of come from a background where I've been producing a 7-day-a-week podcast in the entrepreneurial space called Entrepreneurs on Fire since 2012. That's 4,500 episodes. So I knew that if I committed to daily, that I could pull it off in my schedule. And so far, so good. It's been a great journey, and I'm loving the ride.
Yeah, please don't stop, because I'm consuming all of this, and the way you're doing the show on a daily basis, where you're touching upon all the main news, some important tweets in terms of an angle they give on the topic of MicroStrategy or whatever is happening. And also, I really enjoy the video clips, because I don't necessarily catch all of them. And then having highlights within your show is great. I know you ran a poll recently on you asking people how much content they wanted, and I answered as much as it takes to cover everything. So I missed the 30-minute of my MicroStrategy drug, right? Instead of the, I know you've shortened it down a little bit, but I'll take it all, obviously, and just happy that you're producing it. But I could do 30 minutes, no problem.
Well, that's good to hear. And that's one thing that I love about YouTube is every one of my videos are getting 300, 400 comments. And I literally read them all, because to me, the content is like, it helps me get better. Like, it's constructive criticism. Like I'd rather see this, or I like when you do that, or I don't like this. And my show has changed over the like 75 to 80 days that I've been doing this from those comments. And when I put out that poll, I was like, I hope, you know, like a few people answered. It'd be interesting to know. I had 1,700 responses in 5 hours, and 50% of people were you, Anders. They said as long as it needs to be. But 33% of people did say 10 minutes or less. I mean, Matt really nails it with that 10-minute mark. I mean, I'm the person who's like, ooh, I wish Matt would go for 20 or 30 minutes, because every second's like so good. But a lot of people, listen, you know, they're driving to work, they get to work, they're done. They want to be able to consume it in that time frame. They're walking their dogs, they're doing this. So I really wanted to respect that. Essentially, like 85+% of my audience said, hey, if you did a show like around 15 minutes or less, we'd be happy. So sometimes it's 18 minutes, sometimes it's 11 minutes, sometimes it's 22 minutes. I just try to make it as short as it can be with not missing anything. So I'm focused on being concise, to the point. Let's go.
Yeah, JLD,
Awesome.
I think it was probably in November, I posted a 20-minute video where I worked so hard on, like, we were going in depth on a topic. I forget what it was. And I saw comments like, too long. Like, you know, we like the short, you know, choppy clips. And then I started doing that again for 5-10 videos. And then I had more comments like, will you dive in and explain some of these things? And I'm like, you can't please, everybody wants something different. But yeah, hey, JLD, I mean, you saw a gap in the market where, you know, MSTR daily, but yeah, it's turned into MSTR every other week at this point. Yeah, people love it. You passed me in subscribers recently too. So I might have to ramp it up and start chasing you again.
Oh, I mean, if you ramp it up, I mean, it won't be even, you'll sail right on by me. But, you know, it's one of those things where it's like all ships rise on a high tide. I mean, we're both getting some great messages out. I have no doubt that most people are definitely consuming both of our content, because it's really exciting and relevant. I mean, you're in most of my videos because I think you're one of the top curators of content on X when it comes to MicroStrategy. Like, you know, your post today that I think we should probably go over about the earnings report, I thought it was the best that was on the web. And I think that's really what a lot of people are looking for from my show, and potentially your show to a degree as well. But I'm not necessarily giving them like my expertise, because I don't have it to your level when it comes to options and knowledge. So what I do is I'm a curator. Like I like to find the best content, because I'm going to do it for myself anyways, because I'm in love with the company. I have the time and I have the skill set to do it. And then I'm just packaging up in a way that allows the 99% of people that don't have the time, energy, or desire to package that stuff up to just press the play button, and then just go about their day and then have that content and just be off to the races. So that's kind of where like you said, I kind of found that niche in that void. Like that's where I kind of find myself, and I don't think I'm going to change. And I think it'll be really interesting to see, as other shows kind of pop up, as just MicroStrategy blows up to the moon and back. Like, what does that look like?
Yeah, and they're going to. I think I was at work yesterday, and I was just going through my suggested videos on YouTube, and I saw a guy that had 46 subscribers, and I would give him a shout out. I don't even have his name, but there's going to be over the next few years a bunch of channels that follow, and I see Bitcoin Not Crypto in here too. You've got the Canadian guys that are making videos, and yeah, they're doing good stuff too.
Yeah. Now they're like joining forces and having like a three-way. So here's our three-way going on right here of having a conversation. But those guys
The
are
Axis
great.
powers, yeah. The terafloor.
Oh, yeah, the wall that we're building is amazing. But it's really interesting to see like when the individuals kind of are finding their way, and then they're coming together and they're all adding value, because like with the Bitcoin Not Crypto and the other individuals that they have on, they all have different areas of expertise. And so like they're talking about X, Y, and or Z, and they're all bringing value in their own way, which is making like a really complete show, which is nice.
I want to get on to that, Matt, JLD, since you mentioned that tweet from Matt. So now I'm curious. I want you to get into that, Matt. Before we do, I just want to mention. So Jeff from Mass Adoption, BTC Mass Adoption, which is over in Massachusetts, he has this event called campnakamoto.com, or that's the website, where he's getting together a bunch of great people, in my opinion, in Bitcoin. And so it's going to be a difference. Instead of a conference, it's going to be a weekend on an island on the East Coast. And I will be emceeing the event there and doing whatever involves a microphone and cracking a few jokes or whatever. I'll be happily doing it, maybe hosting a panel. So it's October. It's on the screen there in the bottom. October 10 to 13. With Larry Lepard, James Lavish, Natalie Brunell, Mark Moss, Joe Consorti, Michelle Weekly, DJ Valerie, and a bunch, Luke Broyles, a bunch of others. Discount code Anders 10 gets you 10% off. So I'm looking forward to that. And I spoke to Jeff. This is no guarantee, but he's totally into MicroStrategy. And by the way, he was in the chat just before. I don't know if he's there right now. But he's going to try and put together some MicroStrategy panel as well. It is what so many people want to hear about and discuss, like the three of us, obviously, clearly. So that's going to be interesting. So it's going to be a weekend of just hanging out. There's families, there's kids coming, and I think it's going to be really fun and awesome, and hopefully with some MicroStrategy content there as well, without necessarily guaranteeing that. Jeff, if you're in the chat, if there's anything you want to add to that, just throw it in the chat and I can put it on the screen.
Speaking of MSTR content, I think Matt needs to dive into that X post from today. It's too good not to talk about.
Yes, exactly. That's where we want to go to. Please, Matt, take it away.
Which one are you talking about? Are you talking from yesterday, the earnings preview, or which one?
Yeah, exactly. Your MSTR earnings preview, the 5 things you're looking for.
Yes. Anders, if I send it to you, do you want to pull it up on the screen, or how do you prefer to do that?
You know what? I used to share screen on Restream here, but after I started using it again, which I did when I started doing the MicroStrategy Monday shows, then it's not working for me. I tried also before the show here. Is there any way that you can?
While Matt's talking, what I'll do is I'll drop the link to the X post below the live video.
But how do I bring it up on the Restream?
You won't have to. People can people that are watching it can just go to the post as they're watching it.
I can talk through it. Yeah.
So where do you want to? Do you want to put it? Do you want to put it in the chat, JLD, or?
Yeah, I'll put it on the video. Like there's 106 people watching. I'll just put it in that chat right there.
Okay, perfect. Matt, please tell us.
Yeah, I'll drop it on the X chat as well, real fast. Cool. Okay, so yeah, so this is kind of fun. MicroStrategy Mondays on a Wednesday, but we also have earnings this afternoon, so that'll be fun. I'll be doing a Spaces in a few hours as well, to go over that. So yeah, kind of yesterday I was thinking about obviously the Q3 earnings call in October was like a definitive era shifting moment for MicroStrategy. Like kind of before that, you know, they started in August of 2020. I wasn't in the stock until December of 2022. And, you know, they were kind of throwing things at the wall to see what would stick, right? They started with, you know, regular debt at high interest rate. They did a convertible bond and, you know, they got a decent coupon from that. And they were kind of messing around. And eventually this year or last year, end of last year in November, they got the best terms they've ever gotten on a convertible note. $3 billion. I believe it was a 55% premium. One thing that Ben pointed out that was really solid is they were able to pull back the force conversion from 3 years to 2 years, which allows them, because right now, if they could, they would force convert a lot, the issuance for the two issuances from March, and I believe there was one in June or July. If they could force convert those right now, they absolutely would clear the cap table and then reissue this month, next month, April, and just front load it into Q1, early Q2 here in 2025. And we can talk about the strategy behind that too. But in Q3 of 2024, they kind of finally repackaged, and they did like a double rebrand. You guys remember when they came out as a Bitcoin development company,
Right?
And people are like, "What do you guys like? What
I
is
was like,
this?" And then they had, it didn't like totally make sense. And they came out with MicroStrategy Orange last April, and everyone's like, you know, there was not a lot of revenue potential, and people didn't like it based on how it impacted the base chain. And you know, the fact that they just silently killed it was the best they could do. And then they soft pivoted to a Bitcoin Treasury company and explained, hey, we take Bitcoin and we turn it into securities to make it palatable for the market. And everyone's like, that makes sense.
I mean, Matt, honestly, not to interrupt, but I think people are going to look back 10 years from now at that Q3 earnings call and say, that was the pivot that turned MicroStrategy into a $20 trillion company.
Absolutely. Yes. It went from, hey, this is going to be a great, you know, Bitcoin investment. They're going to do stuff in the future to, oh, they actually have figured out what the strategy is here.
They figured it out.
So they figured it out. So it was really big. So it's hard to top a call like that, you know, because they came out with like, I mean, I could pull up the deck here just to see if I have it saved. Okay, I don't have it saved. But on the earnings deck, you know, there was like 30 or 40 slides of just charts after charts, and the converts have outperformed Bitcoin. You know, just this is the refinery that we have for Bitcoin securities, and it was a really foundational moment. So that was only 3 months ago, believe it or not, or I guess probably a little bit more than 3 months ago. It was the end of October. So they're not going to be able to top it. And the nice thing, I posted this morning on Twitter. Let me see if I can pull it up. I said that the great thing about MicroStrategy earnings is that they don't really have to do or say anything crazy for investors to be happy. You know, we don't need them to beat on revenue or beat on earnings. We don't need to see like massive appreciation from an asset sale because we already know what the value is. All we want is basic forward guidance on how they will continue to execute. Because the only questions that investors have right now are about the, you know, future converts, which is a big one for me. How they will continue to issue the ATM. Are they going to, you know, how are they going to finish the 4 billion? Are they going to refile for 20 billion more? What's the strategy for that? And I can kind of talk through what I'm hoping to see there. But those, and then how does preferred stock now play in? How did the initial offering go this week? I think today is when they get the money. So maybe either today or on Monday, we'll have an announcement for hopefully 500,000 or 500 million of Bitcoin. And so it's going to be interesting. So kind of going back to the post yesterday of what I'm looking for. The first one is just forward guidance on how much debt they plan to raise over the next quarter, right? I was not angry. I had a, you know, if options holders may not be the ones holding December calls were maybe not happy about what happened, but I don't think that the ATM has really impacted the share price all that much. And the way that I explain it is people want to see that expanding multiple to the upside, right? So I think if you don't include their debt, you just do an assets or Bitcoin to market cap, they were at a 3.4 Thursday. That was like November 21st or something when we went up to $543 a share and we closed at 400. It was like a $200 daily wick. It was crazy. People want that kind of volatility, but they only had like 300,000 Bitcoin on the balance sheet at that point. we're at 471,000 Bitcoin. Maybe they had a little bit more, 471,000. So for long-term holders, if you're a stockholder, if you've got, long-term, you've got leaps or something, you want them to create this base of assets for which that multiple can expand in the future. So people see this 3.4x multiple and they're like, only 3 months ago, less 2.5 months ago, and like, where is that expanding multiple? But what MicroStrategy has been doing is they've been front loading the ATM and they've been building this base of assets, Now, they did do a $3 billion convert, which had incredible terms in November. That was the day that was sent out, they totally, the stock crashed. But I want to see, okay, they front loaded the ATM. They now have room to do way more, to take on way more debt than they would have been able to otherwise. They're probably not going to tell us. I would love to see a number for a target by the next earnings call of how much debt, specifically convertible debt, they're going to issue. We have a target of 5 billion. I would love to at least see 6 billion, maybe 10 billion. And part of that too, and I get this part from Ben Workman. He's talked about, you don't really want to issue converts if we have a typical Bitcoin cycle. You don't want to issue converts at the end of this year. You don't want Bitcoin to be at 250, MicroStrategy at 1,000, and you're issuing these converts, and then we have a 60-70% drawdown. The way that they're structured, the term structure, it would probably mature in 2030, 31, 32. The bondholders would be just fine. They could arb, delta hedge and trade the volatility on the way up and down. But if they're not doing that, it's not a very fun trade to be in for a few years. So what you can do is you can front load the convertible bonds to around 100K, because if we do fall back below 100, I think we probably will, like in a few years, maybe next year. I don't think we go much lower than like 80. Who knows? This is me speculating. But if you can get all of the converts out the door before you hit like $150,000 per Bitcoin, who knows what's going to happen, but this is hypothetical. Then what you're doing is you're basically allowing these converts to be as profitable as possible for the bondholders, and potentially have them, they can freely convert into equity at the end of the year, or you can, I guess you're probably not going to get a forced conversion clause in that issuance. But the goal is to front load it as much as possible, buy as much Bitcoin as you can now, re-lever the balance sheet, 20, 30%, I think would actually be smart, because I think we have a lot of runway for Bitcoin right now. So even if you drop below 100, your debt ratio is not really going to go above 50%. So I would love to see like forward guidance, like a quantifiable number of how much or how many billions of dollars worth of convertible notes they're going to issue. So we can pause on that one if you guys want.
Yeah, one thing I wouldn't mind asking you, Matt, because this is kind of how I look at it, and I want to know if you think I'm looking at it in the right way, is that this ATM issuance is kind of like Michael Saylor in a way, kind of pumping the brakes when it comes to leverage. Like he's kind of pumping the brakes a little bit. It's kind of sliding it down. And then when you go into the convertibles, that's when you're like hammering on the gas. And that's what's kind of be able to bump it up to like the 25 to 30% range that Michael Saylor is always trying to kind of be intelligently levered at. Is that accurate?
Yeah, I think so. And again, I think what they're doing is you issue convertible bonds. You don't use the ATM, and what you do is you send the volatility of your stock going crazy, right? So Dan and I were talking about this the other day. The implied volatility chart has fallen from 222, which I think was an all-time high. It may not have been. I don't have data farther than a few years back. 222 in November. Everybody should have known that was the top, but you think it's going to continue to go crazy. Hindsight is 2020. But now it's all the way down at like 89 or 88. So that implied volatility, that's still really high, but it's not, that high for getting the best pricing on these converts. So you kind of issue these convertible bonds, you allow the volatility to go crazy, and then you can capture that volatility, which will usually manifest in like a higher multiple, so higher premium. Then you can harvest that for more Bitcoin. So it's kind of, instead of doing them in tandem, which they kind of suggested in the Q3 earnings call, you kind of do one and then the other. You kind of rotate back and forth. And I posted this yesterday. The market has had, well, I guess if you, not including this morning, the market has had 2 days of information that MicroStrategy was not issuing shares last week, and they're not issuing shares at least through today, trading today, likely because of the blackout period. And so the market, Bitcoin recovered a lot on Monday morning, but the market has been pretty excited, and the multiple has already expanded a little bit from Monday morning in 2 trading days. So if there's and I can kind of skip to this next one too. If they give forward guidance that, hey, we're going to finish our current filing, and then we're just going to pause for a while, or maybe we're going to hang on to this 4 billion, and from today out, we're just going to use it strategically. And we can, you know, try to speculate at what MicroStrategy to Bitcoin ratio that is, what multiple is that when they would issue to harvest. But that would send the volatility up, because traders are like, okay, that glass ceiling that has been on the stock has now been lifted up. And so then now you get the volatility back. The market knows you're going to re-lever up, so it demands or beckons a higher premium and a higher valuation from the market. And then that's when you can get really great terms for the converts. And that's when the volatility and potentially a higher premium, because I think we're kind of low right now. I'll actually pull it up. What are we at? We're at 1.89. So just for reference, and I have a few different ways of calculating the premium. This is the one that you see on MSTR tracker. It's just the market cap multiple to Bitcoin holdings. On Monday morning, it was 1.7, and now it's basically 1.9. So that's the market expanding that valuation on top of Bitcoin and saying, hey, we're willing to pay a little bit more because we know we're not being, I don't like using the word dilution. I call it accretive equity issuance, because that, you know, that's what it is. But it'll be interesting to see kind of what happens moving forward.
You have some thoughts on that, JLD? Anything you want to comment?
Yeah, one thing that I thought was kind of interesting, Matt, on your post that I wouldn't mind addressing, because, you know, like the deeper that I dive into MicroStrategy and understanding a little bit of what, you know, Michael Saylor's plan is and what he is doing forward, especially when it comes to the ATM, the at the share selling, at the market selling, is like they're using that, like we already kind of talked about, to kind of bring the leverage down a little bit. And at the same time, of course, what is that doing? Because he's immediately buying Bitcoin with that. That's accretive. So that's adding to our Bitcoin per share value. And there's a chart on MSTR-tracker.com that actually tracks that, like how many Satoshis we have per, you know, share, you know, what is our BTC value per share at. And when he does that, that kind of increases in that manner. When you posted about that, you kind of made it feel like in number 2 and then the bonus that you were kind of rooting for a pause on the ATM, which surprised me a little bit, because I was under the impression that like we're kind of like in the camp of, hey, the more Bitcoin we can buy at these prices, the better. It's going to increase the Bitcoin yields. It's going to increase the you know, Bitcoin value per share. Are you kind of rooting for a pause in that ATM, as you just kind of mentioned and you kind of alluded to in the post?
Yeah, only from a narrative perspective. So I'm a huge bull on issuing shares, increasing the Bitcoin holdings, because I think if we just let volatility run wild and, hey, it's a fun hyper volatile stock, option traders have fun, you know, it's just a high beta stock on top of Bitcoin. That's fun. That's not great for long-term holders. Long-term holders should want to be, you know, quote unquote diluted, because it just gives more capital and more optionality in the future. So I have been fighting on Twitter, the trolls saying like, you know, he's going way too fast. He's issuing more than he said he was going to. And I'm thinking he's taking advantage of the opportunity. And and like I was saying, like what they're doing when they issue those shares is they're building that base, right? So sure, the multiples come down, but they're building that base larger and larger, from which the multiple can expand even higher. So if we go to a 3.4x multiple now, that stock price is going to be, I haven't done the math. It's going to be way higher than it was in November, because that base that they've built is even larger. So I'm pro at the market stock offering, issue another 21 billion. The only thing is that volatility is still the product. High beta returns to Bitcoin is still the product. And so if the market suppresses volatility on your stock because of whether it's mechanically how it's working or just a narrative base because of the share issuance, it's going to dampen your ability to issue convertible bonds, to issue preferred stock, to allow there to sell securities on top of that volatility. So if they are allowed to, and again, I don't know if they're going to do this. I just thought it'd be an interesting thing to mention. If they do give guidance that, hey, we're going to slow down, you'll see that volatility come back, because traders are like, oh, okay. The buoyancy on the stock, the upward buoyancy will come back. The implied volatility will go up. The terms on the converts come back. So in essence, it's kind of like the sine wave of like high volatility, low harvesting, and then like lower volatility, higher harvesting. And they're just going to kind of, I think they kind of figured this out over the last 2.5 months of how they're going to do it moving forward. Now, part of it is like how much can the market time and price that in? It's to be debated. But yeah, I'm pro at the market selling. I mean, we're at a high multiple right now. They should probably be issuing shares, but you have to watch that volatility number. And we've kind of seen it fall off a cliff. We're even kind of lower than we were in October too. So
let me ask you this
like
question, because again, I dive into all of my comments, and a very, very common one, when Bitcoin or IBIT is up 0.7% on the day and MSTR is down 1.3% on the day, everybody's like, oh my God, he's smashing the ATM. Like, what is happening here? And other people are posting something like, I thought this was a levered play on Bitcoin. Like, why isn't it up 1.4% if IBIT's up 0.7%? What is the best way, in your opinion, to handle those comments?
Well, you stop replying to them is what I've done. But if you do choose to reply to them, it's not a leveraged Bitcoin ETF. It's not going to perfectly track. If you want to look at the correlation, it's, I think it's like 0.8 or 0.85. Like, it's close. Like, they move in the same direction generally. But there are periods of dislocation. So two things. First, in November, they were issuing 2 billion. I think it might have been more than that, $2 billion worth of shares per week.
Yeah.
And the market cap was like 50. Like, it's not 90 like it is now. So they were dumping shares onto the market, and the stock was wildly outperforming Bitcoin. And so part of that volatility isn't just with like the issuance and the mechanics of the stock. It also has to do with hype around Bitcoin. If Bitcoin breaks out of the current, because it's kind of doing a stair step where it breaks out of the range for 20K, it chops for 4 months, and then it breaks out. And so if you continue to see that, when you break out, you'll naturally have higher volatility on MicroStrategy. So that's what we saw in November. Even with the ATM, we hit a massive all-time high, the highest multiple we've seen since early like February or January of 2021.
Yeah,
so
that's what Michael Saylor was on. Like, he was on like CNBC saying, "Hey, I'm taking $3, I'm taking $1 and I'm printing $3 like a couple million times a second."
Yes, exactly. And so I had a second thing I was going to say too. It escaped me. So it was good though. I can tell you that it was good.
Well, maybe this might, like, because it might have been around this topic, is that the first part of that question was when people are complaining about the ATM getting smashed and the price getting suppressed a little bit.
Oh yeah, so the dislocation in price action. I do, so early January, I didn't think that there was a correlation, because I view it more of like on a multi-month period, the leverage ratio is what will beckon a higher premium. But the last 2 days of trading, I was like, okay, there is kind of this glass ceiling. The volatility has come down. You also have in there too the forced conversion of the 2027 notes, which is basically an extra $1 billion worth of shares. I don't know when that is going to happen by. I believe they have a month window into the end of February here, but these funds, these family offices, whoever owns the converts, the hedge funds, they will be converting and then selling the equity. Now, if they cover shorts that they had on as well, it's a net neutral trade, but you do also have that plus the ATM issuance, which has kind of added that downside to the stock recently. So it's probably fine. That being said, and this is the hard thing, JLD, that you probably know, we get the most views when MicroStrategy is going to the moon. I don't know about you, but end of November, that's when I was getting the most views on my video. That's when I was getting multiple hundreds of thousands of views on my posts on Twitter. And so that when the hype and all eyes are on MicroStrategy at $500 a share, if you are entering at a massive valuation, the downside risk is much higher than the upside risk. And again, we encourage long-term investing. We encourage a long-term outlook. So those people I think are going to be fine if they hang on. However, like if you buy if you buy Palantir today, for example, at their 500 PE or whatever they were trading at, like they could probably go higher in the same way MicroStrategy could go higher. But you do have to understand that you are buying a stock that is deviated from its historical trend and its historical valuation. And so you're probably going to have more downside compared to Bitcoin. And so that's kind of just something that is unfortunate, but that's kind of just how the way markets work.
Yeah, you could honestly pull up probably both of our view charts, and it's almost tracking MicroStrategy charts. Like, it's spiking on the high days, it's going down a little, because a lot of people, and listen, we've been there before too, you want to kind of put your head in the sand sometimes when things are going bad. You're like, hey, I don't need to live in this. I'm going to go for a walk. I'm going to like turn off, my devices for a day, for 2 days. I'm going to kind of go code silent. And when I come back, like hopefully things have improved. If not, maybe I take another couple of days off. So I totally get it. That's why like I was just like, I'm going to be doing a daily show because I want to be up in the morning just committed to the fact that, hey, if it's a good day or if it's a bad day, I want to have content out there for those people who are panicking, who are really struggling, who are just for all the wrong reasons consuming the FUD that's on X, that's on all the social media platforms. At least they can come to MicroStrategy today. And I'm going to share a positive light. Like, I'm not going to, I'm not going to be like, fake pumping anything. That's not the deal. It's like, I'm going to find what I think is the good news, which is always the long-term news with a long-term view of like, listen, if you zoom out 6 months, I mean, yeah, people are complaining, oh my God, the last 2 months have been bad. Like, yeah. And how have the last 6 months been? Like unbelievably incredible. And so like, how are you going to feel in 6 months from now? Like we can have that more long-term thesis because that to me is my play. Like I don't own MSTX. I don't own MSTU. I don't give any financial advice around those things at all. I did a whole video on them and I did talk about their fees and the volatility decay that comes with products like that. But I just know that I love MSTR. I wish I had Matt's knowledge when it came to options. I'm actually, Matt, I've been in your MST Pro for a few months now. So, I get all that stuff and I'm learning, but I don't have the knowledge, So by the way, big shout out to Matt's MSTR Pro. You guys need to check that out. It's extra content, extra videos, like really cool intel about options specifically. Super valuable, but I don't know that. So I'm not in, those type of things. I'm just focused on, hey, I have an unbelievably long-term belief that Michael Saylor and MicroStrategy are steering an amazing ship of the Bitcoin Treasury company. Who knows what they're going to announce today, but I have no doubt that I'm going to be excited about their announcement because I feel so aligned with this company, period, end of story, that I'm just a joy. It's a joy to be along for the ride. And Anders, you mentioned this before we got on this call. You were just like, how amazing is it to be alive in this moment right now? Because I was a child when Amazon launched. I didn't have any money to invest in Amazon even though I would have known that it was going to be amazing because it just makes so much sense. The same with all these other great companies. Like I'm now at a place in my life where I have both the ability to be here and have disposable income to invest in something that I think is going to have exponential returns long term. And that's the only thing that I focus on.
Yeah, and just to add on that, I can't remember who of you early in this video were mentioning MicroStrategy likely becoming a $20 trillion company or Bitcoin becoming it was okay.
I used the word 20 trillion, but it was like,
okay.
I mean,
Yeah,
we
I mean,
might not be around by then, but it's going there.
Oh, I absolutely do think we will. I personally, I think Bitcoin will do the 200x to hit $20 million per Bitcoin. None of this is financial advice in this video. It's just three MicroStrategy fans that like to talk about MicroStrategy. Yeah, fanboys. Three Saylor fanboys here. And Bitcoin doing 200x to reach $20 million. We already know it's public information. It's a designated strategy by Saylor that MicroStrategy moves 1.5 to 2x of Bitcoin. So people I think sometimes forget to think, well, if Bitcoin does 200x, that does mean that MicroStrategy will do a whole lot more than that, potentially 1,000x, potentially more than that, because compound interest is bonkers once you play it out a little bit. And a couple of shows ago, I did the napkin math, just looking at last year numbers where Bitcoin did about 2.5x, and at the same period, MicroStrategy did 8.5x. And you play that out with more compound interest, and the difference is mind blowing. I don't know if you guys have some thoughts on that. And I'm sure that may take 15, 20 years or something to happen, but what a joy and privilege to be around, to be able to throw a few $100 or $1,000 into this, and it can be life-changing.
Now, when Matt makes a price prediction, I'm the first person to be pressing that play button because I love to hear like what he says when he's talking about it, like his beliefs behind it, because he actually has like a thought process behind that. Whenever people ask me price predictions, I have 100% of the time I have the same answer: higher. And not tomorrow, but like long-term higher. Because I will not give anything more than that because I am not the person to do that. There's other people out there like Matt and Jeff and Ben, you know, who have the background and the skills and the knowledge to make, you know, realistic price predictions based off real data. And I love it. So thank you guys for doing that.
That's definitely a safer way to do it. I have my $750 target out right now by tax day. People are going to hold my feet to the fire if that is way off. So you're keeping yourself safe there. Yeah, too. I think you know, JLD, by doing this daily, what you're doing is you're increasing your personal conviction, right? Because you're right, you're curating. We both curate for videos. We're constantly on the lookout for that clip or that podcast or whatever. Because yeah, not everybody. We're gonna listen to it anyways. We might as well share it with people. I put out a post. I was in. My daughter was sick. We were on vacation with my family. This was over. I think this was New Year's Eve, and the stock had, I think, hit at the time was 290, 285. It was the bottom. And you know, I have a lot of call options that were just in the toilet, and I'm like, oh, like, what am I doing? Like, you know, you really start to check. I will say, like, the volatility just does not phase you at a certain point if you own call options on MicroStrategy. But what I did, instead of making a video because I was on vacation, I did a large write-up. I basically was like, I think this is the bottom, and here's why. And I had to look at all my charts, and I looked at all the data that I pull from, you know, my routine stuff that I look at every day, and I said, hey, I think the bottom, not to pump my own horn, but
yeah,
I think the bottom's going to be between 270 and 300, and it was 285, I think, or something like that. So like right in the middle of the range. And what that did, and when I saw confirmation from that, like the conviction grows. And so sometimes by posting it too and making a video, you can help people. But be like, okay, like if we're going to go down this fast, like there will be a reversal eventually if the fundamentals of the company are strong. And so
yeah, and another great person in this space too is Dan Hillary. And there's been a couple times that Dan's made a post on Twitter that said, hey, I'm staying off Twitter for a couple days. This is just too ugly. This is too much FUD. And I respond to him every time he does that because he's done it a few times now. And I'm like, Dan, look at my follower count. I have 19 followers. I have like well over 2,000 people that are following me, but I'm following 19 people. Every one of those 19 people, they only post positive things or like realistic things about MicroStrategy. And that's just a world that I've chosen to live in. I don't pretend that there's not things that are negative about the company from time to time. I don't like that stuff is happening, but it's going to happen whether or not I consume it. And I've made my bed. I've made my conviction that 4 years from now, 14 years from now, 40 years from now, MicroStrategy, led by Michael Saylor, who just turned 60, by the way, so he'll be 140 years, which will be great. He'll look fantastic, is going to be in a fantastic place because they are going to have the biggest pile of the best preservation of capital that we have ever created up to this point in existence. And that's my conviction. You can disagree with me. That's fine. You can have another conviction. That's fine. And you can make a video that says MicroStrategy today sucks. Like that is you can do that. I will not watch that video. I will not consume your content because I choose not to. And it doesn't make it wrong. It doesn't make your opinion wrong. It just makes the world that I've decided to live in. Like the 5 people, like there's a Jim Rohn quote I end every one of my Entrepreneurs on Fire episodes with. You're the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. Like you are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. It's across the board. It is so true. And so knowing that the 5 people that I choose to spend the most time with in my MSTR worlds are like the 19 people that I follow on X, period. Of course, I have, my child, my wife. I mean, that's my personal life. But I'm saying in the MSTR world, the 5 people, it's 19 for me, of whose content that I consume, it's because they are putting out the content that I believe in and that I enjoy and that I learn from. End of story.
I agree. I fully understand that you want to surround yourself with positive and outlook content if that's the belief you have yourself, and at the same time we can still listen out for critical thinking. But we also get that from guys like Ben Workman and a lot of the, like they are objective. By the way, Ben Workman, quite the goat in this space, I would say. You guys spoke early on about expectations for levering up or down or something. I'm completely on the same page. And already back in December, Saylor said, and that's why it's going to be super interesting today with the earnings call that I recommend people watching, listening into. It's happening 5 p.m. Eastern, 2 p.m. PST today. Already back in December, Saylor said that Q1 will likely be a quarter for levering up, and we're halfway almost, or 1/3 into the quarter, and the ATM out of the 21 billion is almost used up. It is, and as Matt touched upon, a lot of the converts are already either converted or they can be called. They are acting like a stock today, so it is time to lever up, and I think it'll be even short-term good for MicroStrategy's stock price, because it is highly accretive that we're going to see a lot of converts being used to raise funds this quarter, and also the new preferred stock, which I guess will start listing, or will list and trade soon, the STRK preferred stock.
Yeah, that's actually number 4 in Matt's post. So Matt, do you mind hitting that part up where you talk about any guidance from Andrew about how the company will issue the pref dividend, equity / cash, if cash, from cash flow or ATM?
Yeah, I think that would just be interesting. One of the, I have not read the preferred stock filing yet, but from what I've heard, from what I've seen, they have the optionality to issue that dividend in equity or cash. Now, the funny thing about MicroStrategy, when you're a shareholder, what you are holding is the product that is being given away to all the security holders. So if you, all the converts, they can convert into equity, and it dilutes your shares. When someone earns a dividend on STRK, the pref stock, which I believe that ticker is going to be changed today or tomorrow, they can either get at Saylor's discretion, they get equity, they get Class A Common A shares, Class A shares, or they can issue cash. And so I would love to just hear from Andrew. Andrew's the CFO, by the way, just a little bit of information of how they plan to do that, because the thing that's going to be interesting is not this initial $250 million offering, because let me pull my calculator. What is 8% of that?
20 million?
What was that? 20 million? Oh, that's actually kind of high. Right. Okay. So that's substantial. So 20 million a year that they have to pay out. Now, again, that's a fixed number. So it's kind of 20 million every 250 million increments. But is that going to be from equity? Is that going to be from cash? Last year, they reduced their headcount. So now they have $30 million more free cash flow if everything else in the business stays the same. So, that could be used for that. It could be used for convert coupon payments. At the end of the day, it kind of sounds like the currency of MicroStrategy is going to sound kind of weird. The currency that MicroStrategy deals in is their own shares. That's what they distribute out when they pay people. When they pay the convertible bond holders, they pay in shares. Unless we have the unfortunate event where they're below the strike at expert, that's probably not going to happen. But that would be an interesting situation. Converts, and then the pref stock, you're issuing shares out to them as well. And so I'd love to see guidance on how long it takes them to get to that full $2.5 billion issuance. And then, how do they plan on paying for it? Because it's great. And I actually think the pref stock is probably more accretive than the ATM and the convertible bonds. So if they can do it well, it's the best for the shareholders. However, when you issue this, it's out, and you have an obligation to those, and it's perpetual. So there's no expiration on these preferred shares. So you always are going to have cash or equity exiting to these holders. Now, the positive is that they can convert in the future it's honestly a very high strike. Like, I'm not going to go buy an STRK. I can stomach the volatility of everything going on. But when we get the capital, the $584 million today in the door, we immediately buy Bitcoin, and we pay 20 million for 10, 20 years, which who even knows what that's worth at that point. So it's an incredible exchange. However, over those 10 years, and if we go to 10, 20 billion of preferred stock, and we owe billions of dollars worth of dividends, is that coming from the ATM? Are we going to continue to be diluted? Like, or how are we paying them in equity? So I would love just some guidance there. And they're probably, in an earnings call, you don't paint something in a negative light. So I would love to just kind of hear how the pref stock issuance went, I mean, it was upsized by almost 2 million, that initial tranche. And so they're probably going to say it's great, and I want to hear them say it's great. There have been some rumors. I covered this in the video I posted last night. Who knows if they're real or not, but the investment bank that they're working with has been incredibly impressed by A, the product, and B, the demand for it. And so I want to see that reiterated as well.
And one thing that
Yeah, it was
Jeff Park
interesting.
did
Go
post
ahead,
on,
JLD.
and one thing that Jeff Park did post on X, which I thought was pretty interesting, is he called this the perfect instrument. He didn't initially call it the perfect instrument. He called it the near perfect instrument, this STRK, this preferred stock. And then after some more details came out about it, he went back and he said, like, okay, this is actually the perfect instrument. And one of the reasons I think, Matt, and I wouldn't mind you commenting on this, because this is how I was understanding it, is he was talking a little bit about doing ATM on the actual preferred shares. And then if that happens, what I think he was kind of alluding to was like, well, if the ATM is being hit on the preferred, it's not even touching MSTR. So MSTR is not going to be, quote unquote, like dampened by this constant ATM pressure. So was that something that you were understanding as well?
Yeah, that's what makes it so interesting. So if they want to raise $2 billion, they could go in the market and sell $2 billion worth of, Class A common, or they can issue the pref stock, $2 billion worth of that. And when you issue the pref stock, you still get the capital up front, you buy your Bitcoin, but then what you're doing is you're issuing your shares over time that you would have initially given to the market. So it's basically like issuing an ATM, like issuing shares to the market, but you put you put yourself on a payment plan to actually deliver those shares. So it's a slower dilution over time and way more accretive initially. So the downside is that eventually it might grow to a point where that dividend payment is very large. But on the contrary, like it's incredibly accretive early on. So we'll have to see. That this is all in theory, but I think people are really excited about this.
Yeah, and Anders, I know that that I have to jump off in just a couple minutes here at the top of the hour, but I just want to first off, say thank you for having me on. I mean, this was a lot of fun. There's been some really great comments from people that have been, saying that they're really enjoying this, that we mesh good together and we're collaborating well. Do this again. So thank you, Chuck. Thank you, Tommy D. Appreciate that for sure. And kind of the one thing that I kind of want to just leave people with, at least for my portion of this talk today, is like, choose like what ride do you want to be on? Like, what ride do you want to be on? Like Matt mentioned, like, hey, I can stomach the volatility. Like MSTR makes sense for me because of that reason. That's the ride that I chose to be on as well. Like I'm choosing to be on the MSTR ride because I can stomach the volatility. Because why? I'm looking at this 4 years from now, 10 years from now. Like I am really like picturing like the 55-year-old JLD looking back and saying like, hey, thank you for like 10, 15 years ago. Like, thank you for just buying and just holding. Like, thank you. Like, that's the ride that I've chosen to be on. And by the way, nobody can predict the future. I have my beliefs. Matt has his beliefs. Anders has his beliefs. You need to formulate your own beliefs. But I just know there's so many exciting and fun things that are happening with MicroStrategy, with what Michael Saylor's doing, and the Bitcoin world in general, that's, don't look back in a couple years and be like, man, like I did so well, but I was stressed out the whole time. And I was just like biting my nails to the nub. And I was unhappy every day because I was refreshing the stock price and it was up 5%, down 4%. And I was just like saying, what am I doing? So that's why long ago, I just dumped what I wanted to dump into MSTR, back in the early summer. And that's my core position. And then this is something that I do on my show every single trading day of 2025. And I don't see this stopping. So it'll probably be 2026 and beyond. But I've committed to every trading day of 2025, I'm buying $210 of MSTR. And I'm doing that, number one, because I already have my core position. That's locked in. I'm not going to add another big position right now because I'm where I want to be percentage-wise in my portfolio. But now the stock takes a little bit of a dump. I'm just like, boom, I just bought $210 at, $327 yesterday. And like, hey, like, is that a ton of money? For some people it is, for some people it's not. It doesn't matter. Like I have my brother-in-law, who I red pilled, by the way. Luckily for him, back in the summer, he does $21 a day. There's a college student that posts on my videos. He does $2.10 a day. Somebody else does $10 a week. I mean, what is that number for you if you want to go that DCA route, which again, There's a lot of studies out there that lump sum is better and this and that. It doesn't matter. What matters is what works for you. And my rant is over, so I'll pass it back to you boys.
Yeah, no, while you're still here, I just want to say, JLD, thank you so much for coming on. For anyone not watching, you should watch MicroStrategy every single day, MicroStrategy Today on YouTube. I do, and I love it. It's a great curation of what's happening with MicroStrategy right now in the news, relevant tweets, video clips with sailors and others talking about MicroStrategy. So, and JLD, it was awesome to have both you and Matt on here. Matt, we can go on a little bit if you have time, but thank you so much. Really appreciated your excellent, quality opinions and views on MicroStrategy that I think is part of why your show is so good. And thank you for adding that here in on MicroStrategy Mondays. We should definitely do this again. And yeah, it's great to see these chats also saying that they appreciate the three of us here being together. To your point, you touched upon DCA. That's the beauty of DCA really is, as you said, the days where the price go down, you can be happy because you just got more MicroStrategy stock, right? That's I think a great point. And a thing that I want to add to what you said is, it's easy to be greedy and start doing leverage products like MSU, MSTX, options, but my opinion, not financial advice, the beauty of MicroStrategy as a stock is we can, I believe, quite safely, it's a safe investment, hold on for 15, 20 years, and I expect it'll be both very safe, but also give a phenomenal return, and you can sleep well. You don't have to worry about your call options expiring, worthless, or time decay, or any of the other issues that are with the other challenge leverage products. Thank you so much, JLD. I appreciate your time. Thank you for your
Anders,
content,
listen,
man.
thank you for hosting. And Matt, thank you for number one, being the inspiration for my show. And number two, continuing to create content that I get to use for my show, because it's amazing content on MSTR. I believe that all ships rise in a high tide, and we have a great year ahead of us. So a lot of fun. Great hanging out with you both, and catch you on the flip side.
Bye, JLD.
Thanks, JLD. Appreciate it. Matt,
we should call him. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, okay. Now it's time to talk behind his back, obviously. So what do you got? No,
Yeah,
I'm kidding.
right.
I'm kidding.
I'm coming for him in
So
subscribers now. That's my message.
Okay. Yeah, and for those who don't know, Matt produces a very well produced show called MicroStrategy Daily on YouTube, and it's another show that I never miss an episode of. And you both, Matt, have different viewpoints on different content, and both I think are really important if you're interested in MicroStrategy and want to stay on top of what's actually going on, what's important, what could the future look like, what kind of products are they launching down the line, and products for them is different ways of raising funds to buy more Bitcoin, all of it in an accretive way, which means that every time Sailor makes a move, every time MicroStrategy makes a move, they add more sats behind each stock. And sats, for those who don't know, there are 100 million sats in one Bitcoin. It's like a subunit. And that's the beauty of MicroStrategy. That's why we're paying a premium to own the stock, is because he's able to increase the amount of Bitcoin. And then it's up to each individual whether they believe that they can grow into that evaluation or not. I didn't do it this morning, but last week with Punter Jeff and Ben, I just quickly calculated that the market cap of MicroStrategy at the time was 980,000 Bitcoin. Right now they have close to 500,000 or 471,000, I think, Bitcoin. And I personally believe that they can grow, that they'll end up with more than 2.1 million Bitcoin on their balance sheet, which is 10% of all Bitcoin outstanding. It's bullish, but I do believe that because of this model that MicroStrategy has created, where they can tap into hundreds of trillions of dollars on the traditional financial markets that are dying to get a better yield than normal bonds that are struggling to keep up with the dilution of inflation, give them Bitcoin exposure And so MicroStrategy is this funnel from the hundreds of trillions of dollars in traditional finance into buying Bitcoin and putting it on the balance sheet. And we as MicroStrategy shareholders benefit from that. So yeah, anyways, Matt, anything else you have on your mind you want to share, or topics you'd like to touch upon?
Sure. I think we can dive into earnings a little bit more. I didn't want
Let's
to
do
just
so.
hog the floor while JLD was here. So that's why I was kind of pausing a little bit. But yeah, we should call him, he should rebrand to the MicroStrategy counselor. I've never felt so soothed and at ease talking to someone about my investments. So yeah, he's doing a really great job. He's doing really awesome. So yes, so today, now I get questions like this in my DMs and comments all the time. The way you can watch the earnings call is by going to MicroStrategy's website, go to investor relations, and then you can register. You don't have to be a shareholder to watch the video. They'll send you a Zoom link and you can go be a part of it. So totally recommend everyone that wants to watch it to go watch it. And the last one, Saylor kind of joked that, in the past, he would maybe present to like 4 people and all 4 of them worked for him. So the earnings calls used to not really matter. But since they've adopted this Bitcoin treasury strategy, there's, the earnings call are just more, it's more exciting. You can even see Saylor tweeting about it. Like, I think he said today was a big strategy day, right? People are reading into that, I think, a little bit too much. I don't think that means FASB. And I think we can go through a few of these comments as well. I found a few that I want to talk through, but yeah, I don't think that he is implying that they adopt FASB. Maybe they do. That would be the surprise that everyone would love to see. But I think that happens in Q1. So yeah, I think so. To kind of just rehash, I want to see forward guidance on more debt. It'd be cool if they issued it like as early as next week. And we're talking like a few tranches of 3 billion would be preferred. I want them to give forward guidance on what they're going to do with the ATM when it's out. Any language around strategic issuance is going to be key. The market is really going to like that. Guidance on future plans when it comes to like the pref stock, like do they have a goal for how much they want to issue? And I guess too, it is, it's an at the market offering for STRK in a similar way that it's an at the market offering for MSTR when they're issuing the common stock. So it would kind of be something similar to that. They would be diluting the pref stock, but if there's buyers for it and they want that conversion ability and the dividend, there's going to be high demand there. And it looks like they've already kind of upsized the demand for the initial issuance. So just a little bit more guidance. Like some people have been saying, this 21 plan, 21 billion of the ATM, so accretive equity issuance, and 21 billion of convertible bonds. I actually don't think that they meant 21 billion of just converts. They meant 21 billion of other securities that isn't equity issuance. And I think you can kind of wrap the pref stock into that. So if they issued 2.5 billion and they already did 3 billion in November of a convert, that's 5.5. So they're sitting at 15.5 billion left that they've communicated that they're going to issue over the next few years. Now, I think a lot of us would love to see that happen in the next 12 months. Maybe I'm hoping the next like 3 to 6 months, because it's the most strategic and accretive if they can do this by like April. If you believe that Bitcoin is going to be higher by the end of the year, even if you think there's going to be a bear market in 2026, if they're going to get this debt out the door, the volatility is relatively high. They can juice it, based on releasing the ATM and giving forward guidance based on debt, and they can capitalize on that volatility by issuing pref stock and issuing converts, and then they can fully take advantage of the full cycle, whether it's the liquidity cycle or there's a Bitcoin 4-year cycle that continues, who knows, but they'll be able to kind of take advantage and be safe in either camp. So I'm hoping to see that. Guidance on pref stock dividend, and then my little bonus is if they give an update on the 30 million of free cash flow from last year's layoffs. I thought that was a really key point of, hey, the software business is not dead. It's still around. They still care about it. It's kind of Saylor's baby, and they're going to make sure that it's just a cash flow machine. If they're not going to be able to grow super organically, they're going to cut costs, because that business and the free cash flow it kicks off is just a bonus to everything else they're doing. It also provides a little bit of leeway and assurance to the common stock shareholder that they have free cash flow coming in that they can use to service debt, service the coupon on converts, pay out this pref stock dividend. And they don't necessarily have to just dilute shareholders. Hey, we've got a $1 billion invoice we got to pay to the pref stock shareholders or whatever, right? And so we got to issue $1 billion. Sorry, no Bitcoin for that issuance. And then that's when common shareholders wouldn't be that happy about it.
So
Okay.
while you breathe, Matt, I just want to share this. I have I have not verified this. I just saw it. I don't know if it's true or not.
I saw that too. Yeah.
That could be the case that MSTR just changed his name to Strategy. That would be pretty cool or fun.
What?
I don't know.
Wow,
wait,
they are changing.
They are? Okay, I'm gonna go on X.
MicroStrategy is now Strategy. Wait, I'm gonna pull up let's see if the stock likes this idea at all. They probably won't care. But.
Okay, yeah. Let's do it breaking. It's breaking. Well, I mean, the stock
breaking.
is at 344. We are breaking. Well, Dreamin, thank you for that. You're breaking.
Strategy unveils new name, Bitcoin logo, and orange brand color. New websites launched for Strategy software and branded merchandise. Leadership to address new brand at earnings call today at 5 Eastern. Is now doing business as Strategy trademark. Strategy is the world's first and largest. Okay, forget what I said about their company.
So this comes up terribly, of course, because it's not mirrored. Not sure how I can mirror my screen, but new logo, it seems. I'm not going to try and mess around with that right now. Interesting.
I'm going to change some of my branding. Wow.
Just called Strategy, and I love how they put the B instead of TM for trademark. They put a B there over Strategy, so it's Bitcoin Strategy, implied. I love it.
Right.
Sailor, we appreciate the entertainment here.
Wow. I wonder if maybe that's why they changed that. Maybe that's why their pref stock ticker is STRK. Right? Because does that mean they changed their ticker to like STRT or something? Strategy.
I sure hope they don't change their actual stock ticker, because there'll be a lot of history lost in that. In terms of, but I guess we'll have to change name of our shows in that case.
See. Huh. Yeah, a lot of people will be changing some stuff based on that. Interesting.
And the problem is, if we rebrand our shows to Strategy Daily and Strategy Mondays, then nobody knows it has to do with the company,
Yeah.
All right, that's a curveball.
If you don't rebrand,
Sailor.
Yeah, that is a curveball. I don't know if I get it. I mean, it's cool, I guess. Drop the micro. One of the reasons I named it Strategy MSTR Daily is because MicroStrategy Daily is it's a long name, so I wanted to allow it to roll off the tongue easier. So I might have to.
So I've actually been thinking of changing also the title of the show to, instead of MicroStrategy Mondays, MSTR Mondays, just because it's a little bit shorter. So I think the easy choice going forward is whatever. If they change the ticker symbol, I'll just go with that, and then Mondays. But they might hang on to it.
Yeah, maybe they would. It wouldn't make any sense to new investors or something. But okay, wow. Well, if you don't mind, Anders, I've got probably a little bit longer. I don't know. I know you've got to run to something. I've got a meeting here in about 45 minutes that I got to get ready for. But there's a lot more comments.
I can go another 10, 15 minutes. That's okay. We can do that.
Perfect. Let's do it. I saw one person. Let's see. They said it's Tommy. Is Tommy D? Where is this? There are a lot of comments. I'm trying to. Oh yeah. Tommy D said just sold a covered call dated April 17th at 700. Me versus Matt. I don't own this. I don't own any 750 calls for April. super simple if you're not into options math. If you think that something is going to, if I do genuinely think this will happen, but it's more of a prediction. I could be wrong. If I thought that, I wanted to make a bet that we're at $750 by tax day, the strike for that option would probably, you'd have to do the math based on current pricing, but it'd probably be in like the 400 to 500 range, the strike that you would pick to get the max profitability. So that's not you versus me. I don't own any of those, but I thought that was funny. I saw a question about FASB. I think even less now, the fact that they're rebranding, I don't think that they will be doing FASB today. I think that's too many. And they kind of gave forward guidance that would come for the Q1 earnings, which we will probably see at the end of April or early May, which will hopefully lead to S&P 500 inclusion in June. Let's see, what else? Gladiator, yes, I love Gladiator's model. He is out open sourced it. If you didn't know, guys, you can go look at it. Super Bowl will be May earnings. I agree. I mean, the great thing about, and I tweeted this morning, the great thing about when FASB is released is not released, when companies adopt the fair value accounting change, any company that owns a substantial amount of Bitcoin in relation to their market cap will have lower earnings volatility moving forward. Because once you get that quarterly close, March 31st, June 30th, the market can easily digest within a margin of error. You're not going to know exactly, well, I guess you could know when they bought. You would know their cost basis. You had to do a little bit of extra work, but you would know their cost basis. And you could figure out their earnings within like a few minutes of the quarter closing with the Bitcoin price. And so that's going to reduce earnings volatility because you don't have to worry about like revenue, earnings, what kind of forward guidance are they giving for those metrics and earnings per share moving forward. And so that's going to be really fun. I don't know if I don't think it'll have a material, because it's so transparent and everybody can do the math so easily. I'm kind of a bear on having, FASB having a large price impact on the stock. I think if anything, you have robo-advisors with Charles Schwab and Fidelity and these large brokerages that, they look at as very simple metrics to give A, B, C, D, E, F ratings on stocks. So basically what this will do, one of the things this will do is allow those ratings to say, hey, MicroStrategy is no longer an F. We're going to give it a B or an A or something. So I don't think it'll impact the stock that much. It just makes everything cleaner. Everything's more transparent. Everything's cleaner. That's important for everything moving forward. But I think that I don't think it'll be that big. What it does do, though, is it cleans up the accounting and allows them to realize the gains from their Bitcoin. And hopefully we get a very fun S&P 500 inclusion either in June, September, or December. I kind of hope they get denied, because if we do think that the liquidity cycle goes through the end of the year, then you could have September or December when strategy is included in the S&P 500. And that will just be a lot of hype and that'll just be a lot of fun to be involved with. So.
Yeah. And speaking of indexes, just the other day, I tweeted out, what do you call it now after X? It's not Twitter. Do you say you post it, but then post it, you could put it anywhere. If you're tweeting it, it's a post on X. Everybody knows that. But anyways, I tweeted out that yeah, me too. But I am trying to go more and more to like saying X and not Twitter, at least. I went on Invesco's website. That's the company that runs the NASDAQ ETF, more or less, that called QQQ, has the ticker symbol QQQ. And on the website, you can see every single company that is included in QQQ and by how many percentage it's allocated to it. And MicroStrategy at the time, I presume is updated a few days ago. It was 0.47%, so 47 basis point, just less than 0.5% of QQQ is allocated to MicroStrategy, MSTR. And as I spoke about with some of the other panelists on MicroStrategy Mondays several shows ago, then the interesting thing with MicroStrategy is that normally when the price of a stock goes up, automatically it increases in the QQQ and there's no readjustment based on that. But there's one crucial difference with MicroStrategy, and that is that that because of the ATM, because there's so much, what did you call it, Matt? You had a good one. Accretive, not accretive dilution, accretive stock issuance, right? Or equity issuance.
Yep.
All right. So all the accretive equity issuance that MicroStrategy does, it actually means that obviously the market cap expands a lot faster than the stock price itself. It's part of the beautiful tools that Sailor can use, which means that there actually will be a substantial rebalance of QQQ having to buy a lot more MicroStrategy shares at each quarterly rebalance, because the percentage hasn't grown up as much automatically of stock price increase, but they have to rebalance focused on the market cap, and the market cap has grown because of the accretive equity issuance substantially compared to the stock price. So that actually brings extra buying power, automatic, like nothing you can do about it. But QQQ has to go out basically once a quarter and buy substantial further amounts of MSTR, which Sailor will just hit ATM into that and do even more accretion. Loving it. Any thoughts on that, Matt? Or so someone's saying, so Saki, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I think yeah, the inclusion is really important, and the S&P 500 is that's the big dog. That's the one that will have a 5% or higher, ownership in the company, and that's when you get the real retirement passive flows coming in. And yeah, I do like that comment from Zaki. Schwab does rate Tesla and F. It rates Strat. I'm gonna have to. That's gonna be a hard thing for me to rebrand. I'm gonna call it MicroStrategy for now because we started the call before they announced it. MicroStrategy is rated an F as well. I mean, honestly, if you rely on Schwab's robo advisor or their robot equity analysts ratings to make an investment decision, then I don't think you're gonna make it. But
exactly, you're not going to make it. In general, in investing, it's really important that you create your own understanding and make the choices that best fit you. You can't rely on what we were saying or anyone else or the Charles Schwab robotic recommendations. You got to make your own thesis and understanding, and I guess what we're both trying to do with our two different YouTube shows is just share input and information, education, and then it's up for each individual to make the decision. So yeah, it's an exciting day. We started out with MicroStrategy Mondays, and then at 2 p.m. PST, 5 p.m. Eastern, there will be the earnings call from MicroStrategy. You can sign up, as Matt said, through their website, and that's it's going to be really interesting. And then tonight, 7 p.m. PST, I expect, as every Wednesday evening, 7 p.m. PST, so that's 10 p.m. Eastern, that MicroStrategy True North have their live show, which is an investment club of guys that have all are heavy into the MicroStrategy trade, and they're sharing their thoughts. It's great content. Another of the shows that I more or less never miss. What else you got, Matt?
I totally agree. I'm trying to digest. I'm looking at the merch store that they released. I never bought any regular, I'm kind of glad, regular MicroStrategy merch, but they released a bunch of strategy stuff.
Okay.
It's on store.strategy.com, and I might have to get a few things here. It's kind of fun.
Yeah. I was planning to go to MicroStrategy World, I think that's the name of it, right? Which is in early May in Florida. But it's kind of my plans have changed quite a bit since I used to live in the Palisades, and my rental home no longer is. So my plans this year have drastically changed. So I won't be able to make it. Would love to go there, but therefore can mention it for anyone else that want to go and spend days with other MicroStrategy bulls and make new friends and talk MicroStrategy. And I think most of MicroStrategy True North are probably going to be there. What about you, Matt? I'm getting a feeling you're quite busy in your day to day, and that's why you are going to rebrand to MSTR occasionally. I'm just joking, but
strategy occasionally. That's what it'll be.
Strategy. It's going to be now strategy occasional. So yeah, but are you going to make it down there or?
I've talked to a few of the guys about going. My work schedule is kind of tough. I don't have a lot of opportunities to get out. So we'll kind of see how the next few months go. I'll probably buy a ticket if I do go within the month. So not within a month of it happening, not within a month from now. So we'll see. Trying to still figure out a few things. It'd be awesome to meet everybody in person that I've been talking with and hanging out with. So the hard part too is MicroStrategy World isn't for like us, it's for like businesses to go and learn about the strategy. But it's kind of funny that it's turning into like a MicroStrategy. It's like a Bitcoin conference, but for strategy, I guess. So it's fun. We'll see.
I think I'm sad to miss out. I think it's going to be a really interesting experience, and it's going to develop over time as they do more of these. Because as you're saying, this is mainly for people interested in their product, like the traditional MicroStrategy product, which is business intelligence. So there's going to be, I guess, probably a majority of people that are interested in business intelligence product, the business that they're offering, and then there's going to be a bunch of these Bitcoin MicroStrategy investors loving what's going on in their corporate treasury more than the actual data intelligence product. And I'd love to be part of that minority, being, totally probably different, and the rest would look at us and go, who are these guys? What are they? Why are they so different? What are they up to? I'm sure it's going to be fun being there.
Yeah, enthusiastic shareholders.
Yeah,
we're a big group of them.
You're good
well,
at
sweet
branding,
honors,
Matt. Yes.
Oh, thank you. You got to be careful with language, when you say stuff, and words carry meaning, and you got to make sure I don't want people to. One of the funniest things. This will be my last thing, and then I got to head out. I got to prepare for this meeting. When they were blowing through this ATM over the last few months, and people were not super happy about it. Everyone's like, "Oh, you're being diluted. You're being diluted." Like Saylor's selling MicroStrategy and buying Bitcoin. Like that's what you should do too. Like you're doing the opposite. Like Gladiator's 100% MicroStrategy. People are like, you're doing the opposite of what Saylor's doing. Now the contrary to that is Saylor has 80 to 90% of his net worth in MicroStrategy. He holds 17,000 Bitcoin, which is $1 to $2 billion, I think, or I think it's 1.7 right now, maybe a little bit less with this dip. But his equity in MicroStrategy is like 8 or 9 billion. So most of his net worth is actually in MicroStrategy. Now he can't really sell that equity. That's kind of like a go to his grave kind of wealth. Like he might borrow against it with a bank or something. So it's not like he has access to that capital. But that was kind of funny. And yeah, so when people are like, hey, you're being dumped on, like you're being diluted, it's like that's actually not what's happening. It is accretive to the equity issuance is accretive to the Class A common shareholder. And that's what you want to communicate, because when somebody new is coming in, somebody with a very traditional finance background, they hear that word dilution and they go, I don't want to be diluted. Now people, when they own the S&P 500 or they own other stocks, like they don't realize how much dilution actually happens. A lot of it happens from basic stock compensation for, the C-suite or directors or key employees. Like that's a lot of, that will eat into the free cash flow of other companies when you have high stock comp. But, MicroStrategy, they are so strategic in this issuance. Like there were weeks where they only did 200, recently they only did 200 million, when a few weeks before that they did 2 billion, right? They did 10% of what they did a different week, because the valuation wasn't there. It wasn't going to add as much value to that underlying shareholder than if they just waited. And so talking about words when I'm communicating that and sharing, it's a part of the strategy. You should want it because it's accretive. People will naturally call it dilution because that's what they're used to. So and I know Saylor kind of gets frustrated when people call it dilution. And so I want to at least help in my communication to change that language.
And you are, Matt, and I couldn't agree more. Words, they really carry meaning and paint the picture of what you're talking about. So it's important what you choose. I love the accretive equity issuance, as you're saying, and that's the thing. You need MicroStrategy or strategy to use all of these tools, because every time he does it, your stock ends up with more Bitcoin behind it, and that's what's so exciting about this trade. And yeah, but Matt, I just also really want to thank you for coming on and sharing your great insights. I could see on the chat the audience really enjoying it, and so have I. And I'd love to have. It was awesome to have both you and JLD on and have that back and forth. He has many great questions, and you have many great answers, and I can just sit here and enjoy the show like I usually do. I set it up, I get the guests on. I just want to hear, I want to consume the best possible MicroStrategy content. So I love having the smartest MicroStrategy investors in the world on, which is what I see all of my guests on. For those who don't know, I am usually on Mondays, naturally, run MicroStrategy Mondays, and it streams out live from my my X account and on YouTube. Um, and and today is Monday just couldn't happen, so that's why we're doing it today on a Wednesday. I do want to just quickly also mention, because Jeff yesterday tweeted out or announced that I'll be emceeing campnakamoto.com with discount code Anders10. There's 10% discount. So I personally went to the halving party in El Salvador, which was a lot of fun. It was my first and only time in El Salvador, and you have a weekend where Bitcoiners hang out, and for a lot of us, the social aspect is the most important, more than speakers. That's maybe like your first conference where you're really consuming a lot of great presentations, and then it becomes about hanging out with your friends. Larry Lepard is going to be there, James Lavish, Natalie Brunell, Mark Moss, Joe Consorti, Michelle Weekly, and many more. So that's October 10 to 13th. And yeah, on let me just see if there's anything else in the chat. I think we are caught up. Matt, thank you so much for your contributions in the space. I love it. I watch all of them, listen to it, and JLD said early on that a lot of people listen to it in the car, so that's why they want it less than half an hour. And I'm like, okay, I was thinking, but didn't want to interrupt him, that they don't live in Los Angeles, and in half an hour you don't get far in Los Angeles, so I could use the 30-minute. Anyways, but Matt, thank you so much. Really enjoyed having you on. I hope you're down to do this again, and maybe do it with JLD. I think that was a great back and forth.
Yeah,
And
I would love to do with JLD again. I think that'd be great. I know you have. We've been going back and forth in DMs trying to figure out a time. Mondays are it's my day with my daughter, so couldn't make that work. So we'll throw in the occasional MSTR or strategy Mondays on Wednesdays. It'll be JLD and I or something.
Yeah. So if that's the day that works,
and I also
go ahead.
Yeah, and I will notice too, like one of the things that's interesting. So the videos I make, people probably wouldn't be able to guess. They take about 6 hours to make. And I have a regular day job as well. And so the cool thing about what JLD does that allows him to do the full like daily, actually getting everything daily, is he records and then he pushes it live, and which is a great model. I decided not to do that. I try to curate, and so I write a script and I have an outline, and then I gather all my stuff and I edit my audio so it's super choppy. And I've chosen to do it that way because I want to like pack in as much value as possible. But going like 15-20 minutes, that brings the prep time up to like 7-8 hours. And so in order to make stuff work just personally, for my schedule, my other responsibilities, I have to do a little bit shorter. But it's good to have that variety of content.
Yeah, and I, for that very reason, Matt, is my show is it's a little bit of preparation, things I want to talk about, and then I just hit go live and we do the show, and after we go offline, the show is done. I'm not the type of person that's down with hours of editing or producing or anything like that. I just want to go live. Let's have the chat. So, but that, I think that's great that we all do it differently. So you get different types of shows and angles and content, and we all do it the way we like to do it. But that's hard work what you're doing right there. So, but Matt, thank you so much for being here. It was awesome. And for those who are not watching it, MicroStrategy Daily on YouTube is great MicroStrategy content. And you pointed out, as did some in the chat, that I think it's Beat the Denominator also is
Yes.
something to watch. MicroStrategy Today, which JLD, who was on here earlier, is producing, which comes out every single day with MicroStrategy content. And then I come out with MicroStrategy Mondays on usually Mondays. And then there's MicroStrategy True North, which is happening on Wednesday, 7 p.m. PST. Yeah, what I want to add, actually, and I told you that when we spoke about it, so you can better do this on Wednesdays, Matt, is I'm going to continue to call the show Mondays because that is supposed to be the pillar, but there's several people that are unable to go on Monday. So, and I love doing this, so I want to do more. So I hope to be able to both do the Mondays and then maybe 1 or 2 weekly further shows on MicroStrategy. They'll still be called Mondays, but like with you on some Wednesdays and the other people to fit whenever these great guests like yourself are able to come on and just pump up a lot of MicroStrategy content, because I love this trade, and just calling it trade I know pisses some people off, and I kind of like that. And one of the reasons I decided to start MicroStrategy Mondays was because some of my Bitcoiner friends, or Bitcoiners in general, have a problem with MicroStrategy after it started outperforming Bitcoin. And I just think that's wrong. I think MicroStrategy is so good for Bitcoin. It helps in adoption and hyper Bitcoinization and taking Bitcoin to $20 million per coin faster than if it didn't exist. So I thought, let me start doing that. And that was the first MicroStrategy Mondays actually happened on a Tuesday, and the next day, MicroStrategy True North, they started their show. So now we have a lot of good content out there. So thank you so much, Matt. Here's the final chat message. Final thought: change strategy is brilliant. Right. Yeah. So I've dealt a little bit with SEO personally, mainly SEM, which is the paid links early in my career. I was very glad to be able to stop that when I started having my focus on Bitcoin instead. But Matt, thank you so much. Appreciate you being here.
Thanks, Anders. Have a good one, everybody.
All right. Thank you for watching, guys and ladies, and hope to see you on the next one, which will be on Monday and at 2 p.m. PST. There will be the earnings call. You can get to it through MicroStrategy's website where you register. And then tonight, I expect 7 p.m. PST that MSTR True North will digest and talk about it. And that is another one not to miss. So thank you, everyone, for watching. Thank you, Matt, and to JLD, who was here earlier. Thanks for viewing and the great content. Cheers. See you in the next one.